as well on the another device, so you will be able to see the comments and everything, right?
Yes,
So now,
sure.
just give me a minute. I'm passing the host right to you. Just a minute. The device, so you will be able to see the comments and everything, right? So, see, are you able to share your screen or not? Okay, sir, everything is fine. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
See, are you able to share your screen or not?
Okay, very good evening to one and all. I hope I am properly visible and now you can see the screen as well. And sorry for this slight delay. We are late by approximately 10-11 minutes. So let's start the session. The how to get 99 percentile in a 99 percentile in VARC verbal ability and reading comprehension. So in this particular session, the next 30-35 minutes, I'll take you guys through what the VRC session is all about, because I personally believe that you should know your enemy first if you want to make sure that you want to ace VRC section. You should know what is in there in VRC, what exactly or how exactly I want to make sure to prepare for the questions which are asked in CAT as an examination. So first of all, we will dissect VRC as a section, what exactly this section is all about. And then we'll talk about, how much time, what kind of questions, what student need to do, how to prepare, what to prepare, what should be your monthly, study planner. So we'll talk about all those things in this session. So stay connected. In the next 25-30 minutes, we'll try to, sum up what exactly and how students should prepare for VRC. Now, before going further, let us first of all talk about, how this section looks like over the years, right? Because one myth is there, CAT ke andar, it is very, very much unpredictable, बहुत ज़्यादा tough है. Let's see from 2022 to 2024, the last 5 years, how VRC section किस तरीके का रहा है, क्या difficulty level है, क्या changes हैं. We'll talk about that first of all. So the conducting IIMs, as I've written, so from 2020, if you see, so Indore followed up by thank you. From Indore, followed by Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Lucknow, Calcutta, right? These are the IIMs, those who have, conducted this particular CAT examination. So let's talk about this VRC section overall. So first of all, if I talk about total number of questions in VRC. So 2024, if you see, there are 24 questions in VRC. Same is the case in 2023 as well, 2022 as well, so as 2021. And in 2020, the number of questions were 26, right? This is the only change if you see in the last 5 years. So number of questions is exactly the same if you compare VRC section in the last 5 years. Now, if I talk about duration, yes, duration, again, we know that it's a 2-hour paper. And for verbal ability, reading comprehension, which is the first section, and 40 minutes is what you get to make sure you solve this particular section. Now, if I talk about types of questions, now if you see in the last 5 years, these are the type of questions, that's it. So we are talking about 5 types of questions. If I talk a variety of questions, if I talk about VRC in the last 5 years. In that also, if you just dwell deep down into what these sections are all about. So if I talk about reading comprehension, so 16 questions reading comprehension here, 16 questions here, 16 questions here, 16 questions here, and 18 questions here. Right, so 2020 was a year when CAT moved from a 3-hour paper to a 2-hour paper, and from 60 minutes duration of VRC, we are now talking about 40 minutes duration VRC as a section. So 16 odd questions, and if I talk about number of passages, again there were 4 passages. So the current pattern is 4x4, which means 4 passages of 4 questions each, and here also there were 4 questions. So passages, number of passages same, number of questions same. Not only this, if you see number of words as well in a passage, we are talking about approximately 500 to 550 odd words passage, right? So this is similar, this is same, and I think as a student we should know, sir, ये हमें जरूरी क्यों है जानना. So मेरे को ऐसा लगता है ये हमें जाना इसीलिए जरूरी है because मुझे पता होना चाहिए what kind of reading speed, though I'll talk about that as well as we move along in our session. So मैं last में session तक इन सब चीजों पे बात करूंगा, reading speed कितना होना चाहिए, टाइम ड्यूरेशन कितना देना है, हम पूरी वर्बल एबिलिटी रीडिंग कॉम्प्रिहेंशन की बात करेंगे. एंड इस पर्टिकुलर सेशन के बाद आई I don't think student के पास कोई भी ऐसा question unanswered रह जाएगा. And still, if you have any questions, you can definitely chat, and I'll definitely revert there itself. So this is what reading comprehension. So if I talk about number of words, 500 to 550 is the word limit, which typically the passages if you see in the last 5 years. Now, when we talk about verbal ability, which is para jumbles, para summary, odd sentence, and para completion. So reading comprehension, as we know, जब हम लोग 10th, 11th, 12th में solve करते थे, the unseen passages, right? So a passage is given to you, followed by questions, and you need to solve those questions. If I talk about these 4 verbal ability questions, this is something which student was not prepared for, any competitive examination. This is a new thing which generally student faces. What exactly this para jumbles कैसे solve करते हैं, and also यहाँ पर जाके students को थोड़ा नया चीज पता लगती है. So if I talk about para jumbles, if I talk about number of questions in para jumbles, by the way, para jumbles होता क्या है? 4 options are given to you, and from those 4 sentences are given to you, and you have to make them in a coherent, meaningful paragraph. आपको उसको arrange करना है sentences को. So if I talk about para jumbles, last year 2024, no para jumbles. I think after so many years, right? This is the first year when there were no para jumbles at all. By the way, para jumbles जो होते हैं, they are theta based questions, which means there are no negative marking. ये theta based questions में आते हैं. Last year there was no para jumbles as such. And apart from that, if I talk about odd sentence para jumbles, wherein 5 sentences are given to you and 1 sentence is an odd sentence, you have to mark that sentence. And again, it is a theta based question, which means you have to type in the answers whether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which exactly is the odd sentence, and no negative marking as such. So these are the 2 kind of questions wherein no negative marking is there. Otherwise, in all questions, there is a negative marking, which is 1/3. If I talk about para summary, there were 3 questions on para summary, wherein a small passage is given to you, 4 options are given to you, and you have to mark the option which is exactly or correctly summarizing the entire passage. And then para completion 2. So para completion introduced हुआ था first time in 2022 when I am Bangalore at this particular paper. So that's where para completion पहली बार introduce किया था, right, in 2022. उसके बाद अगेन लास्ट 3 साल से पैरा कंप्लीशन आ रहा है. सो 2022 के अंदर पैरा कंप्लीशन था, पैरा कंप्लीशन 2023 के अंदर भी था, एंड वी हैव सीन इन 2024 एज वेल. उससे पहले पैरा कंप्लीशन नहीं आते थे. ठीक है. नाउ इफ आई टॉक अबाउट 2023 के अंदर यू हैव 2 each, राइट? पैरा जंबल्स, पैरा समरी, ऑड सेंटेंस एंड पैरा कंप्लीशन. And if I talk about 2022 के अंदर, if you see, there were no odd sentences. यहाँ पर odd sentences questions नहीं थे, और यहाँ पर 3 para jumbles थे, and you have 2 para summary. So these are minute bit changes जो आप देखते हैं as far as verbal ability is concerned. बाकी more or less चीजें same रहती हैं. So if I talk about para jumbles here, so we are talking about 3 para jumbles, we are talking about 3 para summary, 2 odd sentence, and same is the case here as well. So 2020 to 2024, no changes as far as, typically अगर मैं kind of questions बोलूंगा तो RC weightage more or less is same, para summary weightage more or less is same is the case with para jumbles as well. Odd sentence para summary के अंदर कुछ ना कुछ odd sentence और para completion के अंदर थोड़ा बहुत ऊपर नीचे होता रहता है, right? So if I talk about non-MCQ questions, as I said, odd sentence, para jumbles and para jumbles, these are the 2 set of questions जहां पर आपके non-MCQs होते हैं, जहां पर आपके negative marking नहीं होती है, right? And if I talk about per question carries 3 marks, so we are talking about 72 odd marks. ये हम बोल रहे हैं total marks which we are talking about. Now let's talk about percentiles and what exactly is the percentile we are looking at, what kind of raw score we are looking at to hit a 99 percentile. So if you want to hit a 99 percentile, you need somewhere around 40 to 42 odd marks, and this is something which is same across all years. So 1 or 2 marks here and there, 1 or 2 marks here and there if you talk about slots, but otherwise I think 40 to 42 marks, this is how the range is if you want to hit 99 odd percentile, right? What about 95 percentile? If you want to hit 95 percentile mark, you need somewhere around 28 to 30 odd marks to hit 95 percentile bracket, right? As far as CAT verbal ability is concerned. Again, as I said, more or less +2, -2 here and there. Major changes नहीं होते. राइट। और अगर ये आई एम श्योर काफी स्टूडेंट्स को पता होगा जो कैट की प्रिपरेशन कर रहे हैं, इफ एट ऑल देयर इज एनी स्लॉट विच इज डिफिकल्ट, मॉडरेट और इजी, दैट्स हाउ ये जो स्कोर है स्कोर नॉर्मलाइज होते हैं, राइट। सो ऐसा नहीं होता है कि किसी को एडवांटेज ज्यादा मिल रहा है, किसी को डिसएडवांटेज मिलता है, डजंट वर्क दैट वे, राइट। एंड इफ आई टॉक अबाउट 90 odd percentile, so for a 90 odd percentile we are talking about somewhere around 25 odd marks, we are talking about a 90 odd percentile. So typically आपका 8 questions net correct, 8 questions out of 24, 8 questions out of net correct, you hit a 90 percentile mark, right? And if you are talking about 12 to 13 odd questions, we are talking about 99 percentile in 12 to 13 odd questions. This is what CAT VRC section is all about. ठीक है। सो आपको पहली चीज ये ध्यान रखनी है कि मेरे पास 24 क्वेश्चंस है, मेरे को दिमाग में ये कहीं भी नहीं करना है कैट बहुत ज्यादा अनप्रिडिक्टेबल है, बिकॉज कैट के अंदर इफ यू सी द काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चन, मुझे यही 4 तरीके के क्वेश्चन प्रिपेयर करने हैं, मुझे वही 14-15 क्वेश्चन सही करने हैं टू एंश्योर दैट आई गेट अ 99 odd percentile, और मेरे 9 क्वेश्चंस के आसपास 8 या 9 क्वेश्चंस में 90 percentile हिट हो जाएगा। दैट इज समथिंग यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड बिफोर यू आर गोइंग अहेड एंड सेइंग कि मेरे को भैया वीआरसी सेक्शन करेक्ट करना है, ठीक है। आई होप इट इज क्लियर टिल नाउ। थोड़ा सा आगे चलते हैं हम लोग। सो इफ यू हालांकि मैंने इस पे काफी कुछ बोल दिया, थोड़ा जल्दी यहाँ पे ले लेंगे। सो इफ आई टॉक अबाउट टाइम ड्यूरेशन, सो दिस इज द स्ट्रेटेजी आई थिंक we need to follow. We have to start with reading comprehension. अच्छा 2024 में एक मेजर चेंज और देखा गया है कि पहले till 2020, 21, 2023 it was first it was reading comprehension and then followed up by verbal ability. But in 2024 the sequence was not as such that the questions were reading comprehension and then verbal ability. So there were VA questions in between and then reading comprehension passages in between. So students somewhat what they were expecting that will start with reading comprehension, and this is what a bit of challenge was this year when we talk about 2024. Ideally what we generally say is 30 minutes is something which you need to give for reading comprehension passages, which means 4 passages, and 10 minutes for verbal ability. So attempts, if you talk about a 99 percentile attempts, 12 questions attempt here and 4 to 5 attempts here, so total 16 odd questions we are talking about to attempt, and that's where I'm saying a score of close to around 40 to 42, that's where you hit your 99 percentile with a 90% accuracy. So this is something which you need to understand कि मैं जब when I'm solving mock, when I'm giving sectional, this is something it should be there on the top of my mindset. I will not go solving 20 questions, 22 questions. So I think you just solve good quality questions, work on accuracy. That is something which is needed. When I'm saying quality questions, the idea is work on accuracy. That's the only thing, because quality questions कोई आपके सामने आके बोलेगा नहीं कि मैं quality question हूं, मुझे attempt कर लो, ठीक है। So this is what reading comprehension is all about. Now थोड़ा सा उसको और डिटेल के अंदर लेके चलते हैं, that when we say unpredictable, why we say unpredictable? Because we are not ready, we have not done a thorough analysis that what kind of questions, what kind of genre, what kind of passages, what kind of sources can take their passages from, and this is what I'm trying to do, right? First we started off with what these questions are all about, then we talked about percentile, and now we are talking about first reading comprehension. Now this is the slot wise analysis from last 3 years, 22, 23 and 24. Now, if you see the topics, right? If you see the topics here, just focus on the topics here for reading comprehension, right? These are the topics for which I mean students has to be ready with. These are the topics or these are the articles students should read. These are the genres students should focus on, right? Because when we say, so the idea is when we talk about CAT over the years, we are seeing many opinionated articles, because that's where a paper setter can make the opinionated or let's say idea based questions. So it's very important that these kind of genres we should read. We should try read blogs, articles. I'll talk about sources as well, कहाँ से पढ़ना है, कैसे पढ़ना है. But ये चीज आपको ध्यान रखनी है कि science, for that matter, if you see last 3 years, अब लास्ट ईयर्स के अंदर आप देखेंगे साइंस एट टेक is something which is hot favorite. CAT every year is asking passages from this particular genre. तो साइंस एंड टेक मुझे करना चाहिए, that is something which is necessary. तो मैं साइंस एंड टेक जो है कंटिन्यूसली या रेगुलरली करूंगा. If I talk about apart from science and tech, if you see environment के अंदर हर slot में आपको पैसेज देखने को मिल रहा है. So all these things you should know before you are going ahead and attacking the paper. अब मुझे ये पता होना चाहिए. अब ये देखिए, अगर student, let's say if you are reading, let's say something लेट्स से पॉलिटी, राइट? अब पॉलिटी के ऊपर मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा हूँ पढ़ना बंद कर दीजिए, बट पॉलिटी पे ज्यादा पैसेजेस आ नहीं रहे हैं. सो अगर पॉलिटी पे ज्यादा पैसेज नहीं आ रहे हैं तो मेरे को नहीं पढ़ना है, मैं ऐसा नहीं बोलूंगा, बिकॉज उस दिन आ भी सकता है, बिकॉज दैट इज वेयर इफ आई टॉक अबाउट जॉनरास, यहाँ पर कैट कुछ भी पूछ सकता है, बट टिपिकली हम जो देख रहे हैं लास्ट 7-8 साल के अंदर इसी तरीके के पैसेजेस देखे गए. सो दिस इज समथिंग यू शुड नो एंड यू शुड अंडरस्टैंड. ठीक है, थोड़ा सा आगे चलते हैं. नाउ वी हैव सीन द जॉनरास एज वेल कि मुझे पॉलिटी पढ़ना है या साइकोलॉजी पढ़ना है, सोशियोलॉजी पढ़ना है. अच्छा, इन सब के लिए क्या क्या सोर्सेज है, आई डेफिनेटली शेयर इट अक्रॉस. ठीक है, if I talk about sources now see, let's take CAT 2023 and 2024, all the 3 slots put together. एक चीज अगर आप देखेंगे, इंडियन सोर्सेज में से आपको हार्डली कोई पैसेज देखने को मिलता है as far as CAT is concerned. I have not seen that in the last 6-7 years. So if you see CAT 2024, the recent one, right? We are talking about a passage on craftsman and creativity, and that too from Economist. ठीक है, we are talking about passages from Smithsonian. We are talking about passage from Guardian. We are talking about passage from publicbooks.org. और यही अगर आप 2024 के अंदर भी देखोगे, अगेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट व्हाट इकोनॉमिस्ट. अगेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट व्हाट इकोनॉमिस्ट. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट इकोनॉमिस्ट. नाउ दिस इज समथिंग जो कि मुझे बता रहा है कि इफ आई डू सच काइंड ऑफ अ थरो एनालिसिस, आई शुड नो कि मुझे इकोनॉमिस्ट पढ़ना है. NY time is something which I should read. LA time is something जहां से passages आते हैं. So if you see this entire 2 years, the last 2 years, if I talk about all the passages, 24 odd passages, not even a single passage is taken from any Indian sources. So मुझे ऐसे sources पढ़ने पड़ेंगे. ठीक है? So that is something which you need to understand. So this is the basically breakup of the sources, right? Now talking about the types of questions as well, right? So we have seen RC. अब RC के अंदर भी क्या? Let's dissect RC further because this is where, so when we say a 99 percentiler, हमारा सेशन का नाम क्या था? The strategies how to get a 99 percentiler. तो मुझे अब ये समझ में आ रहा है कि मुझे रीडिंग करना पड़ेगा. मुझे ये समझ में आ रहा है मुझे रीडिंग डाइवर्स जॉनरा से करना पड़ेगा. मुझे ये समझ में आ रहा है कि मुझे आइडिया बेस्ड रीडिंग करना पड़ेगा. मुझे कॉम्प्रिहेंशन और रिटेंशन पे फोकस करना पड़ेगा. मुझे ये समझ में आ रहा है कि मुझे इंटरनेशनल मैगजीन, इंटरनेशनल ब्लॉग्स, इंटरनेशनल वेबसाइट से पढ़ना पड़ेगा. सो दिस इज समथिंग विच वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड दिस इज व्हाट अ स्ट्रेटेजी which eventually will take us to a 99 percentile kind of a thing, right? So again, if I talk about types of questions, if you see, so your 27, 28 odd percentile is only the fact based questions, right? Otherwise, if you see over the years, what you have is idea based questions, what you have is inference based questions, what you have is central theme or idea based questions, or with which author will agree with or disagree with based questions. You hardly have any questions on vocabulary or tone. But that doesn't mean that we should stop developing vocabulary or we should, won't get into tones and all, because if you won't understand the tone or the attitude of the author, you will not be able to eliminate the options properly. So it's not only options, how will you identify the main idea? Because your main idea, when we always say what exactly is the main idea is why, the reason, the primary purpose why that passage is written. And for that, I should again understand what exactly the tone of the passage is. If I have to solve these idea-based questions, again, I have to understand what exactly the tone of the passage is. So please, for all these things, you have to understand that I have to be ready with idea-based questions. Vocabulary is also needed because I always say that you can't breathe in VARC section if you are not great with vocabulary. So vocabulary anyways which is required. इसके बिना आप चल नहीं पाओगे, इसके बिना आप breathe नहीं कर पाओगे, इसके बिना आप read नहीं कर पाओगे. So vocabulary definitely is needed. Though direct questions on vocabulary and tone based questions, we have not seen that from last many years now, right? Going further, so अगर मैं इस पूरे लास्ट 20 मिनट्स के डिस्कशन को थोड़ा सा कंक्लूड करने की कोशिश करूं, द स्किल्स विच आर टेस्टेड इन VARC सेक्शन, इट्स रीडिंग. So that's the first skill which is tested, that how good you are in reading. So make sure if you want to ace VARC section, if you are looking for that 99 percentile bracket, make sure you start reading. That is something which has to be done. It's like when you take a breakfast, lunch or dinner, that's how reading has to be done. Or next is nothing else. So reading, and reading. That's the only mantra to make sure that your VRC section is something which can be taken care of. And this is what it is tested, right? थोड़ा सा आगे चलते हैं. If I talk about, let's say, the strategy points, right? So what exactly is the strategy which I have to make? So let's talk about that. So the first thing is aim to attempt all passages. So if you are planning to have 99 percentile, right? That's what we are talking about. So for a 99 percentile, you can leave questions, but you can never leave passages, because if you are leaving passage 90 percentile thoda mushkil ho jayega. So make sure you are attempting all passages. That's point number one. Second, don't waste your time in selecting the passage, because any which ways you have to attempt all the passages. So when you're time selecting, first pehle kya karunga, second kya karunga, you have to read, because the kind of percentile you are looking for, mujhe padhna to padega hi, theek hai. RC first, VA later, because I personally believe, because last के अंदर RC को पढ़ना, comprehend करना, and when you have this anxiety coming in, you have your clock there. So मेरे ख्याल से पहले you should go for RC first and then followed up by VA later. And the reason is because if I talk about reading comprehension, आपके एक RC, एक reading comprehension के base पे you have 4 questions which are intact, right? VA any which ways is an individual question, right? So आरसी अगर लास्ट में रह जाएगा तो लास्ट के अंदर इट इज डिफिकल्ट, बिकॉज एक भी अगर आपने आइडिया कॉम्प्रिहेंशन अच्छी तरीके से नहीं किया, इट विल देन क्रिएट अ प्रॉब्लम. ठीक है. Focus. So the again, if I talk about the strategy to prepare for VRC, rather focusing on solving RC in your initial phases of preparation, I personally suggest develop affinity towards reading. That's the first thing which you need to do. Develop affinity. Eventually, reading comprehension will come. So if I talk about a time management breakdown, this is typically what we have seen when students are giving mock, they're giving a sectional analysis. This is what we have seen typically. So reading a passage should take 3.5 to 4 odd minutes. So we are talking about a 500 words passage. And for that reading 500 passages, 3.5 to 4 minutes is what you should, you should complete the passage. So while reading, while practicing reading, while reading different genre, while reading a diverse genre, the genres you're not comfortable with, this is the first challenge which you will face in completing the passage 500 words in the stipulated time. So this is the first thing which you need to understand. Reading each question and option should take another 25 to 30 odd seconds. Going back to the passage, yes, we do, right? And we should, wherein there are specific idea-based questions and all. So somewhere around, between 45 odd seconds. And the last two options is somewhere around 15 seconds is what we are talking about. So 45 to 90 odd second is where we are talking about solving each question. So you have 4 questions we are talking about. And even let's say if I take, 60 odd seconds, 1 minute, so 4 minutes there and 4 minutes in reading a passage. So 7 to 10 minutes is what solving each RCs will take. So overall 30 minutes to 33 minutes, as in the starting itself, I mentioned 30 minutes is what you should take in solving reading comprehension. And this is further breakup of how the same to be done. Now, this is very important when you're doing a mock analysis or a section analysis, because अब आप जब mock analysis या section analysis करेंगे and mocks के अंदर, this is something which you need to understand. Am I doing all these things in 30 minutes? Or let's say I'm doing it in less time, more time. What are my strengths? What are my weakness? So this time management breakdown will help you in analyzing that particular thing. The 5-step process for reading comprehension. Read, yes. So every word, every line with 100% concentration, because if comprehension is not proper, boom, right? So idea-based questions hai. Agar idea galat aa gaya, so all questions, again, there are high chances that you will mark inaccurate option. Define the essence of the passage within your own mind. What exactly the passage is talking about, right? So this is the second thing which you need to do. Questions need to be understood to emphasize what is being asked. This is what we have seen majority of the time. Sir, I was able to comprehend the passage properly, but question is where the problem is. I have not interpreted the question properly, and that is what the problem is. I end up marking the wrong answer, right? If you see 2024 paper, there were many questions, all 3 options with which author will agree with, except 3 are, 3 are the assumptions in the given passage, except. So these are the questions need to be read properly, comprehend properly. Eliminate the wrong options first. Do not look for the correct answer, because if you go looking for the correct answer, you won't find one. Make sure you should be very sure how to eliminate the options. And then the last option is where your time, you should devote time. So these are the 5-step process. Read properly, define what exactly the passage is, read the questions properly, eliminate the options, and then decide from the last 2 options, right? The common perception which we generally see is I make mistakes when I'm confused between 2 options and I always mark the wrong option. And what I feel the actual reason is, as I said, not absorbing the passage essence, not reading the question properly, as I've just mentioned, reluctance to go back to the passage. Guys, yes, we generally say that because generally hota kya hai, that's where, my thought process is ki, sir, time kam hai, right? We don't have much of a time available. So if we go back to the passage, right, we will waste our time. So let's solve this question without going to the passage. If you have any doubt, in that particular question, right, from where that question has been asked, if you have doubt between those 2 options, my suggestion is there is no point going ahead, mark kar lete hain, baad mein dekhenge. Just go back to the passage, see exactly where you are stuck, and then accordingly mark your answer, because this is what the reason is why we end up marking the wrong one. Overlooking the requirement for elimination, right? So sometimes we overthink a lot on certain things. So these are the 3-4 things which I personally think are the actual reasons for marking the wrong option. Talking about approaching VA questions, because sir आपने RC में तो बहुत कुछ बोल दिया, VA के अंदर कुछ नहीं बोला, because again, if you are good with reading, so if you talk about verbal ability, paragraph jumbles, if you are good with reading, paragraph jumbles can be taken care of. Paragraph summary, if you are good with reading, paragraph summary can be taken care of. Odd sentence, paragraph jumbles, again, paragraph completion. So if you are good with reading, these things can definitely be taken care of. But if I have to give you a tip specifically for verbal ability para jumbles question, the first thing is, remember your high school essays, introduction, body, conclusion, right? So verbal ability, when we go into our live classes, we'll talk about this in detail, and look for connections. And third and very important thing, do not waste time, right? I've seen students wasting a lot of time in VA or VA ke andar, specifically if I talk about VA in VA, you will definitely have to select the questions. VA ke andar it is very necessary, because we are talking about out of 8 odd questions, we are talking about attempting 4 to 5 questions. So there, selecting the right questions is something which is very important as far as VA is concerned. Okay. Now talking about reading materials and prep schedule, right? So reading tips, read from international magazine. I've already mentioned, I'll just go a bit fast here. Read to get out of your comfort zone. I've seen students, sir, I hate politics. I've seen students talking about, sir, I hate sports. There are students who are not good with, arts or literature, facility to literature. There are students who are not great with, reading science or passages related to technology. I've seen engineers talking about, sir, economics and finance is something is not our comfort area. So read out of your comfort zone. That is something which is very important. Read to understand, not retain, right? So comprehension and understanding the passage is very important. Reading Indian newspaper editorials is recommended for sure. अब ऐसा नहीं कि सर ने इंटरनेशनल मैगजीन बोला तो वहीं से शुरू करेंगे. It depends a lot on what are my reading habits at this point of time. If you think I'm reading for the first time, I've not read in my entire life, so start with Indian newspaper. That is something which is needed, because you won't be able to understand the international magazines or the website we have just mentioned. So it is definitely recommended, but not relevant for sure, to be honest with you. Top reading sources, Smithsonian magazine, मैंने आपको दिखाया था. Scientific American, Aeon essays, right? Because the last 2-3 years, though, thoda CAT ne kam kar diya, but CAT used to ask a lot of passages from Aeon essays. The Atlantic, The New Scientist, The New Yorker, Economist, we have seen. So these are the top reading sources which ideally a student has to read. Please take the screenshot. This is something which is very much relevant. Okay. What exactly should be my prep schedule? No substitute to daily RC practice. I have already mentioned. RC practice मतलब अगर आप reading भी कर रहे हो तो वो RC practice है. Prefer online reading, because I have seen students कि हम offline newspaper या offline reading करते हैं. Prefer online practice, because वहां आपको online reading ही करनी है. डू नॉट प्रैक्टिस मोर देन 2 RCs ऑन अ सिंगल डे, डू एनालिसिस। आप रीडिंग करिए 2 घंटे, मैंने बोला था बिल्ड एफिनिटी टुवर्ड्स रीडिंग, आप रीडिंग करिए बहुत अच्छे तरीके से, यहां आप एनालिसिस कर सकते हैं। मैंने कितने क्वेश्चंस पे क्या टाइम लगाया, मैंने आरसी पे कितना टाइम लगाया, वेयर आई वाज स्टक, व्हाट आर माय कंफर्ट जोन, व्हाट इज समथिंग which is bothering me, या जो मेरा कंफर्ट जोन नहीं है, which is taking time. So all these things will come in your analysis. Make your schedule, right? So when I'm saying schedule, I'm just giving you, let's say, rough this thing. Let's say मैं अगर first minute गया, so reading has to be my, so reading has to be my 120 minutes, कि मेरे को 120 minutes reading करना ही करना. I don't think if you can see here or not. So let's say अगर मुझे reading करना है, let's say if I'm starting my verbal ability, मुझे reading करना है, I have to focus on, let's say, retention and comprehension, right? I try to understand the main idea, try to understand, what you can infer, or understanding the hidden meaning from the passage. Make it a daily routine, very important. Right? If I talk about vocabulary, right, start with very basic word power made easy, normal Louis से start कीजिए. Make a separate vocabulary notebook, because I've seen students कि अगर जो reading नहीं करते हैं, vocabulary is something which will bother, and any which ways आपके non-CAT exams के अंदर vocabulary के questions directly आते हैं, right? Again, make it a daily routine. And if I talk about passage solving, don't focus much on passage solving. I've just mentioned, even if you're solving 2 RCs, that should be more than sufficient. Don't focus on that. Rather, I think you should focus on the kind of questions asked in CAT examination, because it will help you to read the passage accordingly. आप ये जो reading कर रहे हैं, अगर आपको एक questions पता होगा, it will help you a lot कि what exactly I have to read. So gradually, second month मेरे ख्याल से यही चलेगा, and go to the basic passages, basic reading passage में शुरू करो. Develop your confidence in, comprehension and speed. यहाँ पर धीरे धीरे आपका comprehension build होना शुरू होगा. Start focusing on main ideas. Start reading some books every month. So gradually getting into eclectic reading, diverse reading. So second month again more or less मेरा preparation रहेगा. I'm getting into third month. यहाँ पर अब मेरे reading goals change होंगे. मुझे eclectic reading पढ़ना है, मुझे history पढ़ना है, मुझे philosophy पढ़ना है, मुझे science पढ़ना है, मुझे environment पढ़ना है, मुझे psychology पढ़ना है. So all these things I have to talk about, right? So develop affinity towards reading different genre, understanding the tone, writing style, motive of author. राइट? टेलीग्राम ग्रुप पे जो हम रीडिंग मटेरियल शेयर करते हैं वो करना शुरू करो. राइट? लाइव क्लासेस, वर्कशॉप जो आप होती रहेंगी वो शुरू करो. 4 मंथ आगे आगे क्वांटिफाई करना शुरू करो. राइट? क्वांटिफाई द थिंग्स कि मुझे लेट्स से आज के मेरे गोल्स क्या हैं, मेरे वीक के गोल्स क्या हैं, मेरे मंथ के गोल्स क्या हैं. आई राइट लेट्स से 4 मॉक टेस्ट. I'll work on, let's say, practice something on weak areas. What are my weak areas? I will read, let's say, 10 different articles this week. Recommended websites जो मैंने बोली है मैं वो कवर करूंगा. So ये goals quantify करना शुरू करेंगे. और 5th and 6th month के अंदर we'll do into, let's say, topic wise questions, mock solving, right? क्या क्या करना शुरू करूंगा. So this is how by the end of 5th month आपको पता लगेगा what are my strength exactly. What are my strength, what are my weakness. This is the last 5-6 months के बाद ये analysis होना शुरू होगा, right? And this is how, you can go and on and on and on. So we can discuss on this, no problem at all, right? अगर आपको कहीं पर भी discussion करना है, mentoring करना है, we can do that. कि मेरा 11th month का 10 month का planner क्या होना चाहिए, right? That is something which you should do, right? And very importantly, don't lose focus. आप मॉक के अंदर, या छोड़ो मॉक आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट इन द जून जुलाई के अंदर हम मॉक की बात कर रहे हैं. फ्रॉम जैन टू जून, राइट? irrespective of what are your scores in topic test, irrespective of what are your score in section test, irrespective of when a class test is given to you, what are your score all about. It is a process, it is not an event. आप ये जो इंग्लिश रीडिंग करना, डाइवर्स रीडिंग करना, इट लुक्स वेरी easy in the 40-45 minute session, but it's a process, it's not an event. You have to do it on a daily basis. You have to be consistent, right? अगर आप consistency maintain करेंगे तभी आपके ये scores gradually improve होना शुरू होंगे, and it will happen gradually, because I have seen students, सर आपने जो बोला हमने सब कुछ किया, and after 60 days they are like कि सर मेरा score क्यों नहीं आ रहा है. Again, as I said, it will happen gradually. So please make sure you keep your focus intact, right? So that's it from my side, talking about the strategies for a 99 percentile, right? I hope you have liked the session. Please do share your feedback in the comment section below. If you have liked the session, or what exactly you are looking forward for this session. If there anything I have missed in this particular session, I'll come up with more session like this. You can reach me out at prashant@ekoching.com, or my number is 9979848380. You can ping me, you can WhatsApp me on this number as well, right? So that's it from my side. Thanks a lot for patiently listening. I hope you have liked it. Thank you. Thanks a lot.